We set sail into the moon. Tilt our tails to the morning dew. Our plans and schemes seem so serene. Amongst the stars, red, gold, and green. Oh, we gave it all in the autumn fall. We danced like flames around the sun. Angels flew where our hope had come. And fireflies went to and fro. As we sat back in the afterglow. Oh, we gave it all in the autumn fall. Oh, we gave it all in the autumn fall.
Let your crazy come out just a little bit. I can see by how you're moving that you're feeling it. You don't have to hide it, you can't fight it, you're an animal. Everybody got a wild side. Yeah, you're probably about to see mine. Come on, don't you think it's about time to live it up, can't get it up, of your wild side. Everybody got a wild side. Just pretend nobody's looking when the beat comes. I know you can't resist that boom of the kick drum. You don't have to hide it, you can dance like an animal. Everybody got a wild side. Yeah, you're probably about to see mine. Come on, don't you think it's about time to live it up, can't get it up, of your wild side. Everybody got a wild side. Everybody got a wild side. There's no use in acting like you don't wanna let loose. Stop breaking some other rules. There's no use in acting like you don't wanna let loose. Come on, let it go, 'cause it's a jungle out there. Everybody got a wild side. Yeah, you're probably about to see mine. Come on, don't you think it's about time to live it up, can't get it up, of your wild side. Everybody got a wild side. Yeah, you're probably about to see mine. Come on, don't you think it's about time to live it up, can't get it up, of your wild side. Wild side. Everybody got a wild side. Let's live it up, can't get it up, of your wild side. Everybody got a wild side. Everybody got a wild side.
They call me crazy 'cause I'm facing all my giants. They try to scare me into thinking I can fight it. They tell me I should never even think of trying. But that's just me, I'm gonna live out in defiance.
I think I like it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I like it. Oh, oh, oh. I think I like it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I like it. Oh, oh, oh.
my time and I won't hesitate. Now's my time and I won't hesitate. Now's our time and we are tempting fate. Now's our time and we won't hesitate. So come on.
Trust for a good time, turning out for something. What up, Edgewood class of 2020? This is Mark Cuban of Shark Tank and IU, go Hoosiers. And I just wanted to say congratulations on your graduation. Man, when you look back in a few years, it's just gonna seem crazy because it is, but what's better than crazy? I'll tell you what's better than crazy, graduating. Congratulations, everybody.
Good morning. Welcome to Edgewood High School and the commencement ceremony for the class of 2020. I am Dirk Ackerman, principal of Edgewood High School. I have immensely enjoyed watching these boys and girls grow into the young men and women they are today. They will be remembered as a very special class, not only for their resiliency in adapting to the rigors of online learning during the last quarter of their senior year, but also for their outstanding achievements in academics, sports, the arts, and humanitarian outreach activities. Specifically, several students in the class of 2020 have received the equivalent to multi-year college scholarships. The Marching Mustangs once again competed in the state ISMA Marching Band Contest and this year earned the position of state runner-up. And both show choirs, Music Warehouse and Sophisticated Ladies, won grand champions at one of their competitions this year. Unfortunately, anticipated successes, such as the baseball team's attempt at another run for the state championship, or the track team's hope for an indoor state championship, were not able to come to fruition. Our spring athletic teams were poised and prepared for the greatness that they're used to succeeding at. All the pieces were in place. Nevertheless, thank you, class of 2020, for your leadership and legacy of so many great memories. I know full well the potential this class holds for future success. In fact, I have frequently been quoted as predicting a future senator and president of the United States are likely in this group of students. Thank you for sharing your sons and daughters with our faculty, parents, guardians, and family members as we have worked hand in hand to prepare them for what lies ahead. I look forward to staying close to many of them as they set out on their journey in life. To our audience, this is an extraordinary time. I have shared with many of the seniors that we can all support them through this difficult period, but none of us can truly empathize with them because their experience is unprecedented. Historically, throughout our country's most difficult moments, high school graduates have had the opportunity to finish their formal education with a commencement ceremony. So as you watch this ceremony together, pull your grads next to you and show him or her the love and support they would have felt the day of the live graduation. It's unproductive to dwell on what we can't have with a live graduation ceremony, but we can support one another on this very special day. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Ms. Loli Matavuli, class treasurer for the class of 2020, for the introduction of the valedictorian address.
Good morning, Edgewood High School. I'm one of your senior class officers, Lily Matavuli, and today I have the honor of introducing one of my oldest friends, Nicholas Grafe. During his time here at Edgewood High School, he has accomplished many great things. For example, Nick has been a captain of both our swim and soccer team. He is a member of many clubs, and most recently, he was accepted into the United States Air Force Academy, where he will be attending this fall. But Nicholas Grafe is more than just his achievements. He is one of the kindest and most intelligent people I have ever met. Growing up with Nick through our childhood years gave me a great example of what it means to be truly dedicated to something you love. He taught me that anything is possible if you put your mind to it, and I think that's a lesson we can all learn from him. His hard work and drive is what got him here today, so it is with my pleasure to introduce your 2020 valedictorian, Nicholas Grafe.
Thank you, Lily, for the introduction. And on behalf of our class, I'd also like to thank Lily for creating the senior video, because it would not have been done without her. Also, I'd like to thank everyone who has helped my classmates and me get to where we are today. This includes parents, surprisingly siblings, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, guardians, mentors, administrators, custodians, coaches, cafeteria workers, and most importantly, teachers. And speaking of teachers, about 3 months ago, I asked one of our teachers, Mr. Winkler, if it'd be a good idea to lead the graduation audience in singing "Take Me Home, Country Roads." His response was simple, and perhaps the most Mr. Winkler thing that I've heard in my life. He said, "Absolutely not. That would be annoying, as a parent, as a teacher, and as an audience member. So, Mr. Winkler, you're lucky we aren't here right now." And now that I have some background music playing in your head, I'll continue on. So what did we do wrong? What did our class of 2020 do wrong to be virtually suspended for our final 9 weeks? Maybe it was when we were all in 5th grade and the majority of the class got in trouble for running up the hill. I remember some of the teachers sitting us down at recess and saying, "You are the class of 2020. Your graduation date is amazing. Is this how you want to be remembered?" Well, frankly, I'd rather be remembered as the class who ran up the hill together over the quarantine class any day, but we don't get to choose what happens in our lives. When we work so hard to get something and to build a reputation like our class has, and it's all ripped away, the only thing that we have left are the memories we made together. I'm not here standing in front of all of my classmates, but I'm here with about 13 staff members and 4 other classmates. Some could say that this graduation speech means nothing, because you all, my other 171 classmates, are not here with me. This medal around my neck means nothing compared to the memories I have of our senior class, like when Mr. Thrasher gave me this lanyard on Dress Like a Teacher Day, or when we all met in the Eagles Landing parking lot to spell out EHS and watch a drone fall 80 feet from a tree. I'd rather our class be remembered as the one who stayed together, knowing that those 5th grade teachers really couldn't punish us all. Because without others, what are we? Without others, what can we even accomplish? Without Chicago Bulls teammate Scottie Pippen, where are Michael Jordan's 6 championships? This past year, I have learned that without others, success will ring hollow. I have learned that the relationships we build mean much more than the accomplishments we achieve. If we accomplish something great and no one likes us, then what's the point? If Dallas Mavs owner and Shark Tank investor Mark Cuban sends a video to one person and that person can only enjoy it for themselves, then what's the point? Much of this I have learned from the movie Cars, when Lightning McQueen gave up winning the Piston Cup. In this scene, Lightning McQueen was about to win, and he looked up at the Jumbotron and saw that the car in 3rd place gave a cheap blow to an old car, the car in 2nd place. The car in 2nd place crashed and could no longer finish the race. And before Lightning McQueen finished the race, he slammed on the brakes, and the car in 3rd place soon passed and won. But the funny thing is, no one cared about that car in 3rd place. No one cheered for him. The cheers were rather saved for when Lightning McQueen reversed and pushed the old car across the line together. While he was pushing the old car said, "You just gave up the Piston Cup, you know that?" And Lightning McQueen responded, "This grumpy old race car once told me, it's just an empty cup." See, if no one likes us, no one will care when we win, and no one will be there to celebrate with us. Sure, we may have our days of our own celebrations, but the next day, we'll have to start another pointless journey centered around only ourselves. And let's think about it. Are we going to remember getting a good grade in a class before we remember Rosie hitting a bat out of midair with the lunch tray, or that same bat flying around in the Veterans Day program? Is the swim team going to remember winning an individual race before we remember Coach Cohn comparing us to a petting zoo because we just wanted a few chocolate chips from his son during practice? I don't think so. If we accomplish our dreams, and our dreams are only for our own monetary gain, then we'll never have enough and we'll never be enough. Kobe Bryant once said, "Success is when we motivate others to then, in turn, motivate another person." What matters are the memories we made together, like when the seniors finally beat the faculty in the senior versus faculty basketball game. The truth is, we didn't deserve this. We didn't deserve isolation, and we sure didn't deserve to be hijacked of our final 9 weeks. But if this is the worst thing that has happened to us, then what do we have to complain about? Lou Holtz once said, 90% of the people you meet don't care about your troubles. And the other 10%, they're glad you have them. We must serve others for the benefit of them to live a life of success. We must be a Mr. DeMoss. We must be a Rosie. We must be a Mrs. Crawford. We must be a Lightning McQueen. We must all be leaders. We must not feel bad for living a good life, but for not assisting others in achieving that same good life. And with the short life I've had, I'd like to end by sharing 3 of my favorite lessons. 1, if you want to be successful, start now. 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Crawford. 2, if you want to change the world, find someone to help you paddle. Retired SEAL William H. McRaven. And 3, the last lesson, and the most important lesson, is that the piston cup is just an empty cup. This metal around my neck is just a piece of metal. But this lanyard is our class of 2020. It's about time high school's over, and it's about time this speech is over, and it's about time that we all move on. So let's make memories with others, not just resumes. Edgewood Mustangs, let's make our lasting impact together. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Hi, I'm Emma Wilson, a senior class officer of 2020, and I have the honor of introducing our class salutatorian, Milena Jarrells. Milena has been a lifelong student at Edgewood, and in the fall, she will be attending Indiana University to continue her academic studies. She doesn't quite know her major yet, but she'll figure it out. Congratulations, Milena, on all your hard work.
Thank you, Emma, for introducing me. Anyone who knows me knows that I wanted valedictorian or salutatorian, but I didn't want the speech that came with it. I'm not particularly good at speeches, so mine won't be nearly as good or as inspirational as Nick's was. For all our sakes, I'll try to keep this short. First, I'd like to start off by thanking, in no particular order, the teachers that I have always had a positive personal or academic interaction with. Thank you, Ms. Benencase, Mr. Sims, Mr. Wilson, Mrs. Boisbert, and Mr. Ewells. You still owe our class donuts, by the way, Mr. Ewells. Thank you to Mr. Winkler and Mr. Cohn. Last, but certainly not least, I want to thank every English teacher I had for their contribution to me as a person. Mrs. Dirk, Mrs. Junkin, Mrs. Van Allen, and Mr. Brewer, I hope you always teach students the way you taught me. And how could I forget the one, the only, Miss Julie Byers. I wish I could have taken ACP Spanish 4, if not for the college credit, then for her witty commentary. Secondly, I want to thank my family. Thank you to my mom, my stepdad Perry, Michelle, who is like my second mom, and my siblings, Ty, Megan, Jonathan, Rachel, and Faith. And thank you to my dad. And finally, I want to thank all of my friends and my classmates for their support and for making high school a lot more fun. Fun fact, I only got 2 A- throughout my entire high school career, one in AP Chemistry and the other in ACP Calculus. It's funny actually because Mr. Cohn told me that A- wouldn't matter. On the one hand, he was wrong because it cost me tying with Nick for valedictorian, but he was also right. Just like Nick was talking about with the empty piston cup, grades do not define a person, and in 10 years, that A- won't mean anything. So, as salutatorian, I ask that we stop expecting or pushing perfection onto students. Please just let them be good enough. Many of you might have heard me say that I strive for the bare minimum of excellence. Well, considering I'm second in my class, I'd say I did pretty well for the bare minimum. Now, a congratulations is in order for the class of 2020. We made it. We graduated high school. I hope that all of our futures are as bright as the stage lights in my face right now. Good luck. Thank you.
Very good.
Good morning, and thank you for all still being with us. Today, we are pleased to welcome Mr. DeMoss from our very own high school. Mr. DeMoss has racked up an assortment of achievements throughout his 32 years of teaching. These include the Franklin Initiative Educator of the Year in 2005, an Indiana Teacher of the Year nominee in 2009, an Ellettsville Chamber of Commerce Educator of the Year alongside his wife, Mrs. DeMoss, in 2019, and the Bloomington Chamber Commerce Success School Lifetime Achievement Award in 2020. You may know him as Edgewood's Jeopardy contestant or recognize his voice from announcing all sorts of activities for Edgewood, but his students know him for his marvelous poetry reading. And today, he will be sharing his expert opinion on the importance of stories. And with that, I ask that you give your full attention to my favorite English teacher and the world's best poetry reader, Mr. DeMoss.
Thank you, Nick. You flatter me. To family members, friends, community members, but most especially the members of the class of 2020, greetings. First, on my last day as a teacher at Edgewood High School, I want to take this unique opportunity to express my appreciation and gratitude to the school board and the administration for allowing me to teach at Edgewood for the past 32 years. In particular, I want to single out Brad Tucker and Dirk Ackerman for their leadership at the high school for the past 20 plus years. I also want to thank my colleagues over the years, and especially the current English teachers and my book group. But I have to single out the person who is in both of those last two groups, Steve Brewer, my mentor and my friend my entire career, and I know I have been a better teacher because of him. Finally, I have to thank my family, including my deceased parents, Brent and Ella, my sisters, Annetta and Joyce, my sons, Brent and Garrison, both Edgewood grads, along with Rhea and Megan, who have made our family complete. And most of all, I have to thank my wife, my partner, my best friend, Susan, who has been the reason for anything I have accomplished in the past 43 years. And I don't believe she realizes what a profound difference she has made in my life. For nearly a year now, I have had a Terry Pratchett quote on my emails. People think that stories are shaped by people. In fact, it's the other way around. Today, I want to talk about stories. I have lots of stories. I can tell you stories about teaching. I had a student my first year who wrote a book review that was pretty good until she got to the last sentence. If you like books like this, you'll like this book. I had Jeremiah Ludlow Jackson or Gumby's father, lying on the floor of my classroom while we did Shakespeare with his friend Tiny kneeling over him reading in falsetto with the whole class laughing helplessly. "Oh, my dainty duck, oh dear." I had a student who introduced me to STARFOAM. You have perhaps drunk coffee from it. And I can tell you a story about a couple times I was on Jeopardy. But people tell themselves stories about the world around them and the people they meet. I've always been puzzled by people who, on learning that I teach English, respond with something like, "Oh, I better watch how I talk." Is their story that I'm keeping score of their grammatical errors? English itself tells a story about part of our history, and it's a marvelous tool, even when it offends someone else's ears. I still say lay when lie is preferred. I frankly find whom to be usually an unnecessary part of stories, and I love telling students the story of ain't, which is most certainly a word, despite what other adults, maybe even other teachers have told them, although I don't recommend its use in most situations. I have known English teachers whose sole reason for teaching is apparently to correct other people's grammar. In my story, they are invariably limited, loathsome wretches who live sad lives and are a blight on their communities. The best English teachers I know chose their subject because they loved writing or literature, usually both. Some people dismiss literature as useless. "Why do we have to read that?" is a question all English teachers dread and hear. And many otherwise reasonable adults dismiss literature altogether. Some even tell a story that stories can be categorized as fiction and nonfiction, with fiction being false and nonfiction being true. That's a silly story. Shakespeare has more truth about humanity than a library of books on human behavior, and Huckleberry Finn contains far more truth about slavery than any history textbook. A few weeks ago, a tweet from a frontline healthcare worker showed up on my feed. It said, "When I was an undergraduate, I constantly complained about having to take humanities courses when my major was in the sciences. Since the pandemic began, though, every day I am dealing with fear, human suffering, family stress, love and loved ones, the need for social interaction. Those are all matters of humanity. Thank God for those classes," she said. She was telling the story of her experience in treating victims of COVID-19. She was telling the story of her own humanity. Stories are essential and unavoidable. Advertising and political campaign strategists talk about controlling the narrative, and narrative is a synonym for story. Jesus told stories, parables about love and forgiveness. History tells stories about cherry trees and log cabins when it comes to talking about our greatest presidents. And we tell stories about how the Mustangs overcame great odds to win or were cheated by the officials. Stories are the tools we use to explain, to make meaning of what is going on around us, and to shape the world to be the way we wish it to be. We simply cannot live without stories, even when the story is that stories don't matter. That's the story many shallow, unhappy people tell themselves. Some of those people tell stories about other people, whole groups of people, and claim that they're telling the truth. But every story is inevitably incomplete. And being incomplete, stories are never the whole truth. Baby boomers tell stories about how lazy and entitled millennials are and how much better things were when they were your age. Come to think of it, maybe things were. Millennials tell stories about how disrespectful you are. And you say, "Okay, boomer." But there are other stories that have been around for centuries. Jews are dishonest, East Asians are inscrutable, African Americans are lazy, Mexicans are dirty, New Yorkers are rude, Kentuckians are stupid, Hoosiers are Such stories have a pernicious, insidious effect, and it leads to stupidity and evil. Don't be taken in by stories that aim to confuse you or influence you, to accept that which you know is wrong, to form opinions about people you don't know, to divide you from your common humanity. Those stories are easily found, but they are usually badly formed, essentially false, intentionally misleading. They are, simply put, poorly built stories. Look for good stories. Tell your own good stories. Over the coming years, you will tell stories about the end of your high school career. You may say your senior year was ruined. You missed out on spring break, spring sports, your prom, spring concerts, the spring play, and a real graduation. But that story is incomplete too. You can also brag about how you went to English class in bed in your sweatpants with your dog on your lap. How you didn't have to go to school on Mondays and Fridays. How you didn't have to take final exams. How your classes were only 30 minutes, if that. Think how jealous your listeners will be as you relate your narrative, and you will be talking about these months the rest of your lives as you reminisce with old friends, compare experiences with friends you haven't met yet, and yes, explain your lives to the generation that you will bring into this world, for whom this time will be an episode in history like the American Revolution or Y2K, and you will feel old. The phenomenally popular musical Hamilton closes with a scene where Eliza, Alexander Hamilton's widow, is featured sharing her efforts to preserve and honor the memory of her husband by championing the care of orphans. And I get goosebumps when she and the chorus sing, "Who's gonna tell your story?" Today, you and I come to the end of a chapter in our respective stories. Now, I expect I have a chapter or two left, but the longest, most eventful chapters of my life are drawing to a close, and I begin looking toward an epilogue. Although you will still see me around the school and community for a while yet, I hope. But you are closing an early chapter in your story. Your next chapters will be, by turns, surprising, taxing, thrilling, heartbreaking, and exactly what you make of them. You are making decisions that will shape the story of your life. So I'm going to ask you that question. Who's going to tell your story? Whatever your answer, please do something for me. More for yourself and the ones you love. Whoever is going to tell your story, whatever shape the story takes, you shape that story so that it is extraordinary. Whatever your story is going to be, start today to make it a good one. Thank you.
Very good.
The class of 2020 has been awarded over $1,279,944 in scholarships, received numerous honors and awards throughout this and previous years. At this time, I'd like for those students who have received scholarship, honor, or award to please stand at home. You will be listed at the end of the ceremony. You may be seated. Edgewood High School is proud to recognize the William Earl Brown recipient. At home, Colby Wicker, please stand. William Earl Brown went to school in Richland Township and graduated from Indiana University. This scholarship goes to one Edgewood senior who will attend Indiana University. Selection is based on financial need, academic achievement, personal goals, character, leadership, and citizenship. The Brown Scholarship pays the total cost of attendance at IU for 1 year. This year's recipient of the William Earl Brown Scholarship is Colby Wicker. Again, congratulations to Colby. You may be seated. Nicholas Grafe, please rise. Nicholas was awarded the Lilly Scholarship. Nicholas has turned down the Lilly Scholarship to accept his appointment to the United States Air Force Academy. The Air Force Academy will provide for his education for the next 4 years, and upon completion, Nicholas will be commissioned as an officer in the U.S. Air Force. You may be seated. Next, I would like to take a moment on this occasion to recognize a group of young men and women who have made the commitment to serving in the armed forces in our country. The following students, please stand to be recognized, and these students will be committed to serving in the listed branch of service. Tristan Bland, U.S. Army, ROTC. Nicholas Grafe, U.S. Air Force Academy. Emily Lang, U.S. Air Force. And Clark Robertson, U.S. Air Force, ROTC. Again, thank you and congratulations.
Alexis Elena Alcock.
I would like to dedicate my rose to my parents for all the encouragement.
Shelby Ann Anderson.
I would like to dedicate my rose to my parents for their constant support.
Matthew Wayne Archer.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my parents, Dave and Carol, for their constant support throughout all of high school.
Sarah Catherine Archer.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my parents for their support through high school.
Kaylin Pearl Ann Ayers.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my parents and thank them for all their support.
Taylor Barrow.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my dad. He's the best dad you could ever have.
Elijah Lee Bartold.
I would like to dedicate my rose to my parents, Amy and Matthew Barthold, and my friends for helping me grow to be who I am today.
Tristan Blake Benham.
And go that way. Go ahead and mess it that way.
Austin Michael Biley.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my family and friends for helping me through school.
Elise Noel Biller. Tristan David Bland.
I would like to dedicate my rose to my mother and father and all my sisters for their endless love and support.
Emma Grace Bolin.
I would like to dedicate my rose to my parents for all of their support and for pushing me to be a better person.
Caitlin Rochelle Branham.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents for supporting me.
Grace Marie Bretveld.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my dad. Thank you for always believing in me.
Hunter Lee Joseph Britton.
I would like to dedicate this rose to all my family members and everybody for their endless support.
Lauren Riley Brown.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my family for their tremendous support and belief.
Monique Elena Brown.
I dedicate my rose to my family because I would have not made it through high school without them.
Michaela Elaine Bruns.
I would like to dedicate my rose to my family because without them this would not be possible.
Elizabeth Ellen Burton.
I want to dedicate this rose to my family.
Jonathan Dale Burton.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents.
Dathan Andrew Carter.
Dedicate this rose to my parents.
Nicholas Allen Chambers.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents and the teachers of Edgewood High School.
Justin Noble Shadon.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my family.
Phoenix Hadley Childress.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my friends and family.
Forrest Allen Christie.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my family who's always been there for me.
Emma Grace Coffey.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my mom and my dad for their perseverance and for always being there for me.
Annie Mackenzie Corbin.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my dad and my mom and everyone that has helped me through this high school career.
Kaylee Ray Covey.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my parents and Papa Bud.
Robert Cameron Curtis.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my mom, my dad, and my sister for always pushing me to be the best person I can be.
Skylar T. Curtis.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my parents for guiding me and supporting me throughout my life.
Bailey Trey William Eugene Daniels.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to all the teachers that helped me get through here and my parents.
Christopher Michael Davis.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my family, my friends, my teachers, and everyone who's ever supported me.
Derek Ethan Davis.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my dad, my stepmom, and my grandparents.
Matthew L. Devine.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents for always being there for me.
Isaiah Christopher Doring.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my friends and family.
Shelby Nicole Drake.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my mom, my dad, and my brothers.
Madison Gabrielle Drew.
I dedicate this rose to my mom, my dad, Mr. Doring, and Mr. Musselwhite.
Grant M. Eater.
I dedicate this rose to my family for supporting me through high school.
Daphne Lynn Ehrman.
I dedicate every petal of this rose to my mother and father.
April Lynn Eller.
I dedicate my rose to my mom and my dad.
Derek J. Farkas.
I dedicate my rose to my mom and my dad.
Daniel Stephen Fleming.
I dedicate this rose to the friends, family, and teachers that helped me get this far.
Andrew H. Francis.
I dedicate this rose to my mom, my dad, and my sister.
Patrick James Gardner.
I dedicate this rose to my mom and dad for motivating me throughout my entire high school career.
Alyssa K. Gilliland.
I dedicate this rose to all of my family and my best friends that have stuck by my side throughout the last couple of years.
Wyatt Dane Glasscock.
I dedicate this rose to my parents and Mrs. Altoff and all the others who have helped me along the way.
Kirsten Renee Gobin.
I dedicate this rose to my daughter.
Kevin J. Goebel.
I dedicate this rose to my mom and my dad.
Nicholas Allen Grave.
I dedicate this rose to Lightning McQueen and my parents for teaching me what's important.
Haley Rose Graham.
I dedicate this rose to my mom, who is my biggest supporter.
Ryan Matthew Thomas Greger.
I dedicate this rose to my family and teachers who helped me be here today.
Luke David Griffin.
I dedicate my rose to my parents for motivating me through high school.
Stephanie M. Griffith.
I dedicate this rose to my parents for always being my biggest supporters.
Joshua A. Grimes.
I dedicate this rose to my parents who have supported me and my teachers who have taught me.
Brent Argus Guthrie.
I dedicate this rose to my family, my sister, and the boys.
Austin Andrew Hahn.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my parents. They've always been my biggest fan. Thank you.
Samantha N. Hamlin.
would like to dedicate this rose to my mom and dad for everything they've done for me.
Alexis Joe Harless.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents for the unconditional love and support. Thank you.
Parker Kelly Harrington.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my mom and dad for loving me and supporting me in everything I do in life.
Christopher Daniel Harris.
I'd like to thank my mom and dad for supporting me.
Connor James Harris.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my mom and my dad. My goodness.
Rowan A. Haverfield.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to everybody who's helped me out through high school and will help me out throughout life.
Colton Dale Hawkins.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents for never giving up on me and always believing in me.
Jalen N. Hawkins.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my mother, who was always there for me when I needed her to be.
Jeremiah David Hetty.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my family and my friends.
Michaela Nicole Held.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to all my friends and family that helped me. Love you guys.
Bryson Herzog.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my parents and all my friends.
Jance Holmes Hunt.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my mom in heaven and my dad for all the stuff he's done, as well as everyone who's loved and supported me along the way.
Alexis Lynn Jackson.
this rose to my mom, who without her I would not be here right now.
Nicholas Keith Jackson.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my friends and family.
Taylor, Ruby, and Jacob.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my parents.
Maria G. James.
I want to dedicate this to God and my parents for all their support.
Melena C. Geralds.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my grandparents in New Mexico for all their love and support.
Aubrey Lane Johnston.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents because I couldn't have gotten through high school without them, and I'm very grateful for them.
Jaron Thomas Kelso.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents. They have supported me through everything I do.
Satoru Sam S. Kido.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents for supporting me all the way through. Thank you.
Amanda J. King.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents and for all their support.
Bryson O. Kinzer.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my daughter, Athena. I love you, baby girl.
Caitlin Rose Coring.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my amazing parents, Sharon Campbell, Michael Campbell, and Brian Coring, for making me the person I am today.
Emily Grace Kovach.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my brother because he has been a great example all throughout my life.
Colton Lee Lady.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my mother, father, and grandparents for supporting me through everything in my life.
Kensington Marie Land.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my family.
Emily Ann Lang.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my future and what it may entail.
Brian Alexander Larios.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to Maria and Dave Friend for helping me throughout my entire high school career.
Cassidy Page Lavender.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my mom for always being there.
Ethan Christian LaFour.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my mom and dad for helping me and supporting me over the year.
Mallory K. Love.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my amazing parents for always encouraging to try my hardest.
Jackson Roebuck Ludlow.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my mother and father for helping me through all of my struggles.
Aaron L. McMorran.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my family for making me the person I am today.
Tyler Jaden Maratz.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my amazing family and then my wonderful friends.
Ryan Scott Martin.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my parents for supporting me throughout my years of schooling.
Sarah Marie Martin.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my mom and brother.
Lillian K. Matavuli.
dedicate this rose to my parents for dealing with me throughout all of high school.
Bailey Rain Mathena.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my parents for helping me shape into the woman I am today.
Matthew P. McBride.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my parents and my brother. Thank you for dealing with me for all these years.
Shanna Siobhan McEvely.
I would like to dedicate this rose to Miss Brookman. Not only was she a great teacher, but a caring one.
Jonathan Warren McLaughlin.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my brother.
Savannah LaDawn Mead.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my mom for being the biggest inspiration.
Eduardo G. Mendoza.
I'd like to dedicate this rose for my parents, especially for all their sacrifices.
Taylor Ann Merriman.
I would like to dedicate this rose to everyone that's helped me through high school.
Alyssa J. Mila.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to Mr. Winkler. The effort you put into teaching goes unmatched, and I'm really thankful for that.
Justin Miller.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my friends and my family.
Audrey L. Mobley.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents and my brother for always pushing me to do my best.
Madison J. Morganette.
I like to dedicate my rose to my parents. They have been one of my biggest supporters throughout my high school career. I can't thank them enough.
Kimberly K. Morris.
I'd like to dedicate my rose rose to my mom and my brothers for keeping me motivated through high school.
Travis M. Myers, Jr.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my mom for being there for me.
Brooklyn Renee Neal.
I would like to dedicate my rose to my mom for always being my biggest supporter.
Mackenzie Lynn Neely.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my friends and family.
Liam C. Nelson.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents for always supporting me.
Sophia R. Nelson.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents for always supporting me.
Haley R. Nethery.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my parents and my sisters for supporting me throughout my school career.
Colin Patrick Nielsen.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my mom, my dad Mark, and my dad Jose for spending all these years raising me into the person I am today.
Stephen H. Norton.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my mother and father who worked hard in raising me and got me to this point in my life.
Evan S. O'Connor.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my mother. Without her, I wouldn't be able to make it through high school.
Kelsey Hannah O'Hare.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my parents. Without them, I wouldn't be here today.
J.T. Orman.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents.
Felicity Pell.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my friends and family and the teachers that helped me get through high school.
Eli J. Pivison.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to all the people that walk stride and stride with me throughout my journey.
Harrison Glenn Pittsford.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents for everything they do for me.
Michaela Renee Poole.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my family.
Alexia Nicole Wren.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my mom.
Colin Matthew Repass.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents for supporting me and getting me through high school.
Tyler Andrew Richards.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to Miss Parker and my parents.
Dylan Bryant Richardson.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to Miss Bland and my parents.
Jared F. Robbins.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents who helped me get to where I am today.
Clark Garber Robertson.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my loving family.
Luke Edward Rowland.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my family for pushing me to my full potential.
Carissa Laney Roth.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my family in the Edge.
Morgan Elena Rusk.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents.
Alicia Ann Sarver.
I like to dedicate this rose to my family and friends.
Emily Grace Saylor.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my parents for pushing me and helping me get through this.
Abigail Lane Sherfick.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my mom and dad for supporting me with everything I do.
Yasmin Wasim Shohati.
I dedicate my rose to my mom and dad for supporting me and for being there for me whenever I need them.
Logan Slaybaugh.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my mom and dad for always pushing me to be the best person I can be.
Devin Wayne Smith.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my parents because they push me. It helps a lot.
Matthew Scott Smith.
I'd like to dedicate this to me because I wouldn't have been here without me.
Riley J. Smith.
I'd like to dedicate this flower to my mom, my grandma, and my dad.
Alejandra Cara Spear.
I would like to dedicate my rose to my mom, stepdad, and dad.
Jarrett Shane Sproul.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents and all the family members who helped me get here.
Tyler J. St. John.
I'd like to dedicate this to my parents and everyone who's ever pushed me to do the right thing.
Lindsay O. Stacy.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my mom.
Trinity J. Stein.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my mom, my stepdad, and my dad.
Bailey Jordan Starrett.
I would like to dedicate my rose to every person who has helped me get to this point.
Simon Zachary Stewart.
I would like to dedicate this rose to Evan Cantwell. He was a good friend and I miss him.
Kennedy Jade Stubblefield.
I dedicate my rose to my parents.
Bailey G. Tatlock.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my mom and my dad for all their love and support.
Abriana T. Terrell.
I would like to dedicate my rose to my mom and dad for helping me get through high school.
Daniel M. Thompson.
I would like to dedicate my rose to my mother and my teachers who put up with me all the way through high school.
Hunter Levi Thompson.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my mom and my dad for keeping me motivated through high school.
Stone P. Walker.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my father for helping me build me into the person I am now.
Andrew Sean Wall.
I guess I dedicate this rose to my mom and dad.
Brianna Marie Wallace.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents for always encouraging me.
Haley Simone Wallace.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my mother and all my counselors. Thank you for helping me be the person I am.
Alexis Ann Ware.
I would like to dedicate this rose to my parents for always being there for me and teaching me to strive to be my best in everything I do.
Jacob Thomas Webb.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my mom and my dad.
Robert Colby Wicker.
Thank you.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my biggest fan and my best friend, my mom.
Emma Kate Wilson.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my mom and dad for supporting me all throughout high school.
Carrick J. Wolf.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my mother and father for always being there for me.
Charles E. Woods.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my mom and my dad for helping me out throughout all of high school.
Donovan Carl Wright.
I'd like to dedicate this rose to my parents.
Alyssa Marie Zimlak.
I'd like to dedicate my rose to my parents for helping me throughout all my goals of high school and for future.
Class of 2020, would you please retrieve your cap and tassel as Dr. Sanders comes to the podium to confirm you as graduates of Edgewood High School. If the cap and tassel is in your car, you can hit pause at this moment. Put the tassel on the right side in preparation for your tassel turn in front of your family and friends. Dr. Sanders, as the principal of Edgewood High School, it gives me great pleasure and pride to present another outstanding class, the class of 2020. These young men and women are true representatives of the success of this community and the Richland Bean Blossom School Corporation. They have endured through a lot the last couple of months, and they are ready to be granted as graduates of Edgewood High School.
Class of 2020, you are an impressive group of students. It has been my honor to serve as your superintendent. As you begin your next journey in life, remember where you came from and all those who had a part in shaping you into the person you are today. On behalf of the Board of Trustees of the Richland Bean Blossom Community School Corporation and the state of Indiana, I declare you, the class of 2020, to be forever graduates and alumni of Edgewood High School. You may turn your tassel. Congratulations.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm your class president, Emma Coffey. Now, I know this is the last speech at graduation, so I'll try and keep it short. First, I want to give a big congratulations to everyone for being here today. I know we all did not have the privilege of being able to shake Mr. Ackerman's hand as we received our diploma. We did not get the chance to experience the rush of walking upon the stage in front of hundreds of people, knowing this was our last time being in the school. And above all, we did not have the opportunity to say goodbye as each of us go on different paths. As a result of these circumstances, the class of 2020 is stronger, more resilient, and more prepared for life ahead. We were born into this world during 9/11 and are graduating during a pandemic. I think the class of 2020 can handle and adapt to anything from here. It was only 4 years ago that we came to Edgewood High School. As young, timid freshmen, we found ourselves looking up to the seniors, striving to be like them one day. Graduating seems so far off, but here we are. Reflecting back, each experience of high school shaped our character. From late-night football games, early morning practices, homecoming, class, pep rallies, to late-night studying, SAT testing, and early morning meetings. All of our high school experiences and memories are the key not to the past, but to our future. Now, at the end of our careers as high school students, we have an opportunity. Now is our time to take on the world, to find and pursue our passions, and to leave a legacy. Always remember that the opportunity to achieve greatness is within our grasp. As Colin Powell once stated, there are no secrets to success. It is the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure. The failures we will make and the obstacles we will overcome create true character. Our time here together as a senior class will not be remembered by grades, popularity, or likes on Instagram, but by our relationships and our character. These are legacies, the kind we must leave. Greatness comes from kindness, compassion, and empathy. It's leaving those you cross paths with a little bit better than before. So, fellow graduates, wherever life takes you, may you work hard, learn from any failures, and always think of others. Continue to do what the class of 2020 does best. Stay strong. Congratulations, class of 2020. I wish you all the very, very best. Thank you.
Edgewood High School graduation, take 15, there we go.
Edgewood High School is proud to,
I wish, can we restart that part?
Hold on, it's caught on like all my gear. 1 second.
As you receive your diploma, take about 2 steps to the X on the floor. Turn your tassel with your left hand.
The rose ceremony is one of the most memorable moments. I can't say that. The rose ceremony at Edgewood High School is one of the most memorable moments. Oh. The rose ceremony at Edgewood High School is one of the most memorable moments that there is. Yeah, that's bad. Just as a reminder, you'll have your diploma in rose in your right hand. Take your right hand across your head to the left.
Apart from the fact it's your left hand.
Yeah.